wonder, kicking off, we've got a couple of Slovaks in, but is there anyone here been to Czech Republic? Has anyone here been to Czech Republic but not Prague? Yeah. Not Pilsen? Yeah? Okay, cool. Oh yeah, I did a cycling tour. So most people go to Czech Republic, go to Prague, and they should because it's amazing. But hopefully with this I can say a little bit about how beer styles are perceived outside of the major cities. So we will look at the varied and diverse world of all Czech beer styles. That's it. Is there any questions? Yeah. So it's sort of a joke that it's all about Pilsner, but it sort of is. It's a joke and it's not really a joke. The concept of beer styles, how it's perceived in the Czech Republic, is a bit different to how we might. So everyone here can probably name 5 British beer styles, 5 German beer styles off the top of their head with no problem whatsoever. And most countries... So most countries develop a wide and diverse range of beer styles. In fact, I've just heard, since I've been talking, that the USA have developed 2 new IPAs. So they're going through new beer styles at a rate of knots. The Czech Republic, on the other hand, has spent about the last 150 years developing 1 beer style. And they've got pretty good at it, I think. This presentation is about Czech beer styles and how that idea works and doesn't work from our point of view. The important caveat, I'm not an expert. I go to Czech Republic quite a lot, so this is largely based on my subjective perception of how things work in the Czech Republic. If I say anything hugely overgeneralizing, please forgive me. I've tried to back up some of my ideas with other beer writers, but any mistakes are definitely my own. We talked to this expert. This is my father-in-law. He believes that any beer that's not a Pilsner is some weird, decadent, Western capitalist plot, I think. So they really love one style and focus on it above all, really. We talk about Pilsner Urquell, incredibly famous beer. In the Czech Republic, it's also called Plzeňský prazdroj. Both names translate as the Pilsen original or true source. So it's very historical. It's considered the first pale lager. It's an interesting mix of Czech hops, British malting technique, researched by Joseph Grohl, and Bavarian fermentation. I won't go too much into the history of it, but it's a style that has spawned innumerable copies from all over the world. It's estimated that about 9 out of 10 beers drunk anywhere in the world is basically an attempt at this style of beer. Some do it well and some not so much. So this is a Pilsner. In Czech, the style of it would be called a Stretly Ležák. Only the Pilsner Urquell is generally called a Pilsner. The idea of, say, a German or US Pilsner is kind of nonsensical. So it'd be a bit like a Spanish Scotsman. Like, you understand what is being said, but it's a bit tautological. And that is not exactly like how it is in Cologne with Kolsch, that it has to be brewed in that place to have that name. Gambrinus is brewed in Pilsen, for instance, and it wouldn't be considered a Pilsen. Primus is brewed in Pilsen and isn't really considered fit for human consumption. So it's not necessarily a matter of quality either. So in Czech Republic, there's only one Pilsner, and it's that one. And the type of beer, as I say, is a Stretly Ležák. Stretly refers to the colour, it means like light or bright, and Ležák refers to the strength, which we'll get on for a little bit. It's basically means lager in the German sense of storage. So as we dive down into Czech beer styles, it's helpful to remember that it all basically comes from this. So we've got our Svetli. The second most popular beer style is a Tmavý pivo, and Tmavý means dark or dark or clouded or obscure kind of thing. It's the second most popular, but it's the second most popular by a long way. It has a reputation in the Czech Republic as a beer for women. And there's a saying that drinking Tmavý will make your breasts grow, which it definitely has for me, so I can attest to that. In between these two styles, we have Polotmavý, which literally just means half dark. So we begin to get the differences in how they're described. The principal difference is the colour. And the colour originally came from, it was an accurate description of how it was made and what it tasted like. Because you had your Svetli, was made from lightly kilned grains, pale malt, and it came out bright. Tmavý was made from roasted malts, and it came out black. And the Polotmavý was made from moderately kilned Vienna malts and would have come out this amber colour. So you got a sense of what it looked like, but also what it tasted like as well. So we get these three colour categories, and we can also add in three strength categories as well, similar to how a German tax system works by banding it into different areas. So you have your Vyšetný. This is your light lager between about 8 and 10 degrees Brix, which is, they normally come out between about 3.5% and 4.5%. Your Ležák, which is what Pilsner is, 11 to 12 degrees Brix. I think 12 degrees Brix is about 1.044 in specific gravity. And anything above 13 degrees would count as a specialny. So by combining these colour categories and strength categories, we get 9 different ways of describing beer. And that is sort of analogous to the way we might describe styles, but it functionally works very different. So this Staropramen would be a Polotmavý Ležák, but this Primator would be a Polotmavý Vyšetný. The famous is Kotnašumavý. Yeah, the Kotnašumavý Tmavý would be a Tmavý Specialny because it's a bit stronger. So they use these words to describe stuff, and it really is only about the colour and the strength of it. And that became very apparent to me with this beer, the fact that I had a sort of beer festival, arts festival in a local castle. It was described to me by the guy, and I was talking to him in my terrible Czech, and I asked him what the beer was, and he said it was a Polotmavý. And at the time I was trying to drink as many Polotmavys as possible because it's a rare style even in the Czech Republic. And I drank it expecting this like malty, sweet Vienna lager style, and it was a double IPA. It was a lovely double IPA, but the shock of all that hot bitterness made me almost gag on it. And then I realised that it made perfect sense for that guy behind the bar, from his point of view, to describe it as a Polotmavý. So the term is very loose. It had a more rigid meaning historically that described the flavour of it very well. But nowadays, with the anglicisation and Americanisation of Czech beer, it's becoming much looser. And that is also sort of reflected in how the beers are described by the BJCP. A lot of the style descriptors of these four, so all the Czech beers are basically category 3. You've got your Czech Pale, which is your Vyšetný Ležák, your Premium Pale, which is your Svetli Ležák, Czech Amber is your Polotmavý, and I haven't put there, but there's 3D as well. The Czech dark would be Polotmavý. And compared to a lot of other BJCP characteristics that are quite defined, there's a lot more flexibility in some of these categories than there are in others. Can't see the notes. So I've basically been asked to do this because at one point I brewed a very nice Czech beer and got quite a lot of plaudits for it, mostly from people who hadn't tried all my other terrible attempts to make exactly that same beer, which is good. The essence of it is, I keep coming back to an idea when I was writing this of a sort of complicated simplicity. It's kind of tautological, but I think it explains a lot about how to approach the beer and how it's brewed. When I did mine, it's a smash, single malt, single hop, and single yeast. And when you've got those very basic ingredients, you try and make sure they're the best you can get. I use Weimar floor malted Pilsner malt. The Imperial Urquell yeast I quite like when you can get it. I think there's a bit of a problem with it getting into the country at the moment. I haven't been able to find any. And water, you want as soft as possible, really, to really let the malt character come through very well. The water is a very interesting topic to dive in. James Wilson in the other theatre is probably giving an amazing talk. You probably should have all gone to that one instead, about water chemistry. Effectively, I use reverse osmosis water and put in just enough calcium chloride to get 50 parts per million of calcium for yeast growth. I tend not to muck around with any sulfates or things like that, and bicarbonates as low as you possibly can get. And temperature control also is a big thing with making all lagers. If you've got a fridge, that's best. This time of year though, it's been quite a nice 8 or 9 degrees outside fairly consistently, so like now is a good time to jump onto making lagers if you don't have that sort of control of it. And decoction. Decoction is, I'm a bit obsessed with it. I'm a big fan of decoction. I think it gives you something that you can't get any other way. There's still a lot of debate about it, although the debate is mostly being won by decoction. So, does it make a difference is the key thing. Obviously it does. If you boil grain, something has to happen. Definitely there's a colour change. I don't know if you can see that very well with the lighting of the picture I took. But does it make any difference to the flavour? I believe so. I think it gives a dry sweetness to a beer that you can't get any other way. So you get that, you can get very sweet cloying beers, but I think if you use decoctions, you can get a sweetness that finishes very quickly in your mouth and gives a sort of drinkability to a sweet beer. There are other advantages, I think. This one, Andreas Krenmar pointed out that if you do decoctions, you can start at these temperatures, you pull out a third of the grain and boil it each time and put it back, and you basically hit every rest temperature almost without fail, kind of thing. So historically that would have been a big part of why it was important to do a decoction. Less important now, but it is an interesting point on it. I won't go too much into the process of decoction. I think it's an interesting thing to look up, and you can find plenty of articles that describe it better than I do. But at the end of it, I think it ties into this idea of complicated simplicity about Czech lager. It's very simple, but there's also a sort of refined elegance about it that makes it, I think, one of the best categories of beer to brew and drink anywhere in the world. I think that's pretty much all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I could say the beer. I think you've got some beer coming round. This is from Bohem. It's the Bohem are a bunch of Czech guys who set up a brewery in London. They're, I think, one of the very few breweries anywhere in Britain doing a decoction mash. I think there's someone else in Leeds maybe, but we went to see their brewery and doing their decoction, and it's fabulous. And we could try a beer side by side that had been decocted and hadn't, and there was a very noticeable extra rich maltiness to the decocted one that I don't think you can replicate.
Are there any sort of cheats that we do? Still step mashing, not really set up?
Yeah,
what would you advise?
People say melanoidin malt can give you a similar sort of thing. You sort of can. I think you get that flavour, but I don't think you get that same sort of mouthfeel, the sort of pillory, malty malt flavour that you get from a good straight leisure. It's similar, but you can get close to it, but I think speciality malt won't get you all the way.
And do you include any additional steps in that? If you were decoction mashing, you were just doing...
Yeah, if you could do a step mash, like at the similar sort of rests. Yeah. So we've got like a protein rest. Sometimes you mash it with an acid rest, a protein rest, like a low saccharification one, and a mash out. High saccharification and a mash out. Yeah. So if you can hit those sort of those rests in a different way, then yeah, I think that's definitely do that as well. I don't think it's the sort of beer that will get you like a single infusion. Yeah. Yeah.
I was asking you this question during the week on my Facebook. You gave me a sort of smash recipe for the pale version. If you're doing amber or the dark, what's the single?
Yeah, so I was saying about with a smash for oh no, I've gone the wrong way. So like a smash for a strictly leisure, just Pilsner malt. But he was asking about about the amber and the dark version. I think you could still do a smash with the amber one, just Vienna malt. That's quite good. With the range of, there's much more range in interpretation for a Polotmavý. You get some that are very hoppy, much more American, and some that are very sweet and cloying and caramelly. So it depends on what end of that scale you're going to do. But yeah, in that case, some like caramel malt or even brewery sugars or stuff would be good with that.
Any significant difference between packaging on the styles? So you said lager them from a packaging perspective, but do you approach them differently?
No, I don't think so. There tends to be a philosophy. Someone said to me the other day that even with the Tmavý, they don't change the water at all. They mostly do things the same way. They decoct everything. They change the malt bill for different beers, but they would use the same fermentation schedule, same lagering, same yeast, same everything. So that is part of that simple complexity, complicated simplicity. So
I've got one for you. You talked about the malt you use, but I didn't hear you mention what hops you used in the beer.
Oh, of course, yeah, SARS, all the way SARS. Yeah, it's the only hop you need for anything. Yeah, it's and again, it's a good point. You get that. That's another thing I don't think you could replicate with like New World hops or things like that. That sort of flowery brightness that you almost like. It is a bitter style in the strictly leisure. You don't really notice the hops. It's not really about the hops quite as much as it is in other beers. The hops are very much a supporting player, I think, to the malt.
Any more for any more? Thanks very much, Rob.